And the first one is going to be Blend Health Technologies. And the presenter is Dinesh Kumar. Um, Hypertension is what they're attacking, affects nearly half of US adults. Blood pressure monitoring is what they're offering. And let's see, Dinesh, the stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Uli, and nice to meet you, everyone. Let me make it full screen. Yep. Uh, my name is Dinesh Kumar, and I am CEO of Blend Health. Oops. Yeah, now it's better. It was covering my entire screen. And at Blend Health, like Uli said, we are looking at continuous blood pressure monitoring. And I'm here to talk about basically what we think future should look like for hypertension management. It's a Columbia University spin out. So hello from New York, even though I'm based in California. Most of the element is in California, but do come here often enough. Do you see it full screen or just the, okay, now it is full screen. Yep.
Yeah, now it is.
So, yep. So now, well, hypertension or high blood pressure, again, from this crowd, right? So it seems like everyone knows what it is, what the complications are. But it impacts pretty much, all major parts of bodies, right? From brain to, eyes, heart, blood, kidney. It's well, additionally, right, by itself, it is really a representation of underlying vascular health. And like Uli said, half the Americans, adults, actually have hypertension. 80% of them are on medication, and about 75% are still have it uncontrolled, which is what result in this being a very preventable thing, and yet, killing so many people and being so costly. And one of the reasons is, and this is what is widely acknowledged as one of the main reasons, is that we monitor our both screening, diagnosis, and monitoring is intermittent, even in best case scenario, right? So we how we diagnose is, during our physical once a year, that snapshot, and once one is diagnosed with hypertension, which in many cases would need this device called ambulatory blood pressure monitoring, which a patient wears for 24 hours. Every half an hour, it squeezes the arm with the cuff. So very uncomfortable to wear. And so after monitoring, even then, we are looking at only intermittent measurements. So it takes several months to years where we are constantly iterating on the drugs to keep it within certain limits. And that's a big problem, right? So because snapshot readings will miss any kind of variabilities. We want to see, nocturnal dip, for example. We want to see that early morning surge. We want to see how, during the day as well, when someone is standing versus sitting. So all those kind of changes we can't tell based on just these snapshot meetings. Now, MAST and nocturnal hypertension, right? So they're not even diagnosed in a physician visit. And many times by the time we know there is hypertension, patients are already visiting nephrologist for kidney issues. Um, so cuffs are like we talked about, right? So it's uncomfortable. It can be even painful. And wrist-based devices are generally not accepted by physicians. And the main reason for that is just accuracy and motion artifacts. So combined with, again, vascular geometry, and there are just so many different reasons. Hydrostatic pressure, when you move your hand around, the blood pressure reading changes and it can be corrected. So the best case scenario for many of those is just what they call spot check, that place them at your chest and then look at the reading. So how we fix is we basically, in a very non-obtrusive fashion, where patient doesn't even know that blood pressure is being measured, we take those measurements every 50 minutes to 30 minutes. It's adjustable. It's worn on the upper arm, where it can be very discreet. Um, but it's also where physicians like it. That's the place that is at heart level. The hydrostatic pressure does not play a role. The vascular geometry is very clean. We look at same brachial artery that physicians are used to looking at for measuring blood pressure. So this is what the device looks like in its current prototype form. On the top left is the device, and it's a very soft device that wraps around the upper arm. The bright part in that notch there, those are basically our sensors. They are placed on top of brachial, And even though device can store data up to like more than a day or two even, we constantly transmit data or Bluetooth to our app, the patient app. And that data includes the PPG signals over multiple wavelengths. And why multiple wavelengths, I'll get into that as well. And additionally, any kind of motion artifacts. And this data is uploaded on our Health Lake, and that's where our trained models sit. And we push back the trends and basically the vitals numbers to the patient app or the subject app, and the physician gets all the data additionally in addition to the analytics. And these are basically, internists, cardiologists, nephrologists. They're looking for different kind of trends, post-surgical follow-up, for example, similarly for ambulatory blood pressure monitoring and for post-medication titration. So the way it works is, again, I apologize for this top left window, the top left image, which is not very clear. So I'll just walk you through from top to bottom. So the top of the image is our, imagined to be our skin. So it shows our vasculature inside the body from skin inside. And the bottom is the deepest blood vessel. So capillaries on top. In between, there are these slightly bigger than capillaries but smaller than arteries, arterioles, and the bottom is arteries. So when heart beats, then blood goes into arteries and through arterioles reaches the capillaries. But arteries are also uh, uh, as as the blood volume changes, they stiffen or loosen, and that they create this what they call pulse wave. Now, what we do is with different wavelengths, we measure the pulse waves at different depths. So infrared and red, they go all the way up to arteries. So we see how that wave is formed at the artery level. And we also see how that wave is formed at the capillary level. So based on the time difference between the two, these multiple sensors, and we are the only device right now that actually uses this kind of mechanism to look at how fast blood travels from arteries into capillaries and how fast that pressure wave travels. And that's really one of the underlying key IP, intellectual capital as well, that how we combine that information from brachial or right onto brachial to convert into blood pressure. Additionally, we still measure the using our inertial sensors, the arm position, and based on whether arm is fully rested, where it is, we can actually correct for that. It's called hydrostatic error correction, which is basically equivalent of you can think of it as like the water column or the mercury pressure, additional pressure from heart relative to the location. So if it is below heart, then pressure will be higher. If it is above heart, pressure will be lower, and we correct for that. And that's actually one of the biggest bottlenecks as well with wrist-based devices. In addition to basically the vascular geometry being very prone to noise, reflections, and slight slips. So we have a number of patents that we have licensed from Columbia University. We also filed a joint patent as well, and a number of publications with several more that we expect to both, patents and publications file and publish. So it's a pretty sizable market. Yeah, as a beachhead, we are looking at ambulatory blood pressure monitor market, which is about globally it is I think around 1.4 billion market, and in US it's about 500 million dollar US market. It represents about 2% of people who are diagnosed to be hypertensive. So we can imagine the scale. And these are covered by remote patient monitoring device uh, recurring revenues. So see, there's existing CMS codes that are currently utilized for these devices, and these are traditional cuff-based devices that basically are both inconvenient and likewise they don't necessarily measure the nocturnal dip very well. Then moving on to again home BP monitor and a wearable market that opens up as a medical device too beyond that. So we want to start with the application of ambulatory blood pressure monitor and likewise through concierge practices for direct to people to use on a subscription basis. Beyond that, using the blood pressure measurements and the variability really analyze and characterize the vascular system and be able to predict cardiovascular risk and events in the future. And ultimately, right, so it being as a biomarker, much like heart rate variability, we can go way beyond into wellness and mental health. So see where so consumer market is very different, right? Even FDA now recognize them differently in the sense that the any kind of medical claims are covered by FDA, and most players want to wellness players they want to play in a different space. But even so, there are companies like BioBeat and Actia, so they are competitors. One is a chest patch, and another one is a wrist-based device. So one is only for looking at blood pressure trends, the other one is for spot check. And we actually are comparable to, based on our initial data, we fall right under ISO 81060, which none of these devices really falls within. And using our multi-wavelength analysis, we can actually get to using our R&D prototype over a large number of subjects, and over a wide range from normotensive to up to stage 2 hypertensive subject. We are actually way tighter than the ISO standard that's used for cuff-based devices. So we want to look at device and subscription, and even combined total of like 12% annual churn rate, which is industry standard for wearable devices. We come up with pretty sizable lifetime value, and these are backed by existing CPD cores that are utilized currently. So we have done R&D prototype and testing at Columbia. We extended that to outside that and made our own custom device, which is now industrial device ready. In the meantime, we are looking to do FDA pre-sub, meet with FDA in second quarter, and that's when we'll do basically the clinical validation for the FDA submission. And hopefully in beginning of next year, we'll be looking at early commercialization. So the team is, again, most people are experts in medical devices and likewise extending into blood pressure variables, embedded systems, hardwares, and we also are leaning on external firms like Spanner and Coherent Solutions for hardware and software development. And backed by, again, a number of medical advisors from independent as well as from places like Cleveland Clinic and UC Irvine. And they represent nephrologists, urologists, cardiologists, and electrophysiologists. So at this stage, we are will be so we are looking to start our IRB with the MVP over the next month, and that's when we'll start raising our next round of $2 million. That basically takes us all the way to FDA submission and gives us a runway of about a year. And yeah, again, open to questions as well, but here is my information. If anyone's interested in learning more, please reach out. And with that, I will stop and wait for questions.
Thank you very much. If any of the audience members have questions, please raise your hand and we can ask those questions. So Dinesh, there has been a lot of controversy with blood pressure devices, in the news. How are you trying to avoid that, getting into that trap? Is that basically how you claim or what claims you make? Is that what it is? Is the problem?
Well, thanks, Uli. That's really the great question. And that's what distinguishes, let's say, consumer wellness devices from, let's say, medical devices. It's really the claims. If claims are at medical level, like your diagnostic, if you're giving numbers, for example, that can be interpreted as diagnostic, then it is a medical device and you need to go through FDA. But if we are showing only trends, and that's the easy path, right? So that's what, think of any variable. That's where they stand right now. So they want to change the language so that they stay on this side because validation burden is a lot higher, and rightfully so.
Laurie has a question. Go ahead, ask Laurie.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you for your presentation. My question has to do with, have you thought about an exit strategy? I know you're still deep in product development and so forth, but I know that investors will ask you what that is. And if you have any thoughts about that you care to share, thank you.
So, well, thank you. It's again, like you said, right? So early days for us. I've gone much further in many other startups, but again, you would want to keep your options open at this stage, right? So ultimately, if nothing else, right? So you want to look at public market, but acquisition or licensing will remain, part of our exit strategy.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's move on to our next presenter. And that would
I had
be
one quick question. I'm sorry, like my Zoom, the menu isn't working, but I just have one little quick question.
okay.
One thing that I've noticed, working in sales with healthcare, how have your potential customers felt about the subscription model? Because I felt that has been a challenge. Have you run into any challenges with the subscription model, or has it been working, or is it not quite there yet?
We are still pre-market, and but I do have, for example, right, so interest from a number of advisors and clinics, both on the private side as well as on institutional side, where they want to integrate as part of their care pathway. For example, after cardiac surgery, when patients are heart failure surgeries, heart failure patients, when they wear a wearable defibrillator. So they also want to basically integrate blood pressure readings in those, and all those are basically subscription-based models. So
Okay.
no, it's going to be again, I won't say I know the answers, but yeah, but it'll be an interesting thing to find out. Thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Great. Tom, last question.
Sure. Since you're using multi-wavelength light rather than pressure itself, do you have to do some sort of calibration to get an absolute number, or are you purely looking at trends?
No, we have to have a one-time baseline. So that's a great question, right? In any this PPG-based technique, we don't get absolute numbers. We only have to have some kind of baseline, which is because arterial stiffness changes with age, but also because of vascular health. And likewise, the amount of the intensity of light that basically is controlled by, again, the current that we pass is a function of skin tone as well. So there are a number of parameters. So we do take one-time calibration, and after that, we basically, based on the advantage we have with these wavelengths is based on their cross correlation of what they call perfusion index and a few other parameters, we can actually tell when it is drifting and when that drift is due to hardware or poorly worn hardware or from vascular changes, because those kind of drifts can happen over 6 months to a year's time.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you, Dinesh. Please hang around and